During the course of millions of years of evolution, sea creatures have exploited the physical properties of our vast, shifting and unstable oceans to develop original strategies for finding a partner, mating, reproducing and transmitting their genes. Like this humpback whale, projecting his 15 tons clean out of the water to woo his partner. We begin our investigations in the Galapagos Islands, where the shallow waters never exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the ideal environment sought by sperm whales in which to reproduce. This solitary male has come here from Antarctica, where he's been feeding for 6 months. Driven by his instinct, he travels thousands of kilometers in search of a pod of females, which he encounters in the Galapagos each year. But how does he manage to locate them in this huge ocean? In water, sound travels 4 times faster than on land. The sperm whale uses this property of the water to emit clicks and detect information emitted by other sperm whales. By the time he finds his first females, he has been celibate for 9 months and is in urgent need of release. He immediately displays his erect member and begins his courtship. Highly receptive, the females release pheromones and dance around him. The male displays himself in front of the females and expresses his affection by stroking them all over their bodies with his tail and snout. He gradually assembles his harem, consisting of pubescent females and mothers with their calves. Drawn by the commotion, other smaller sperm whales join the dominant male, taking advantage of any lapses in his attention to slip within the pod and exchange caresses. The sperm whales gather together in a great circle, protecting their young. All their heads face each other, their tails ready to lash at any intruder. This harem is then the scene of a lengthy petting session, consisting of caresses, nibbles, rolling embraces, and general awakening of their senses. With his sexual organ the size of a human being, the dominant male slips beneath one of his partners. He penetrates her rapidly for a few seconds only, as remaining coupled together underwater is no easy task. He then repeats this rapid copulation with several females, until he is satisfied that he has impregnated all of the pod's fertile members. He then heads back where he came from, sometimes leaving several hectoliters of sperm floating in the sea. Other underwater creatures also spread their sperm and eggs freely in the ocean. Fish, for example, which reproduce without the aid of penetration. This is also the case with the myriad life forms which spend their lives attached to the reefs, as well as crabs and other crustaceans, shellfish, sea cucumber, coral, urchins, etc. To avoid randomly scattering their reproductive cells at different moments and kilometers apart, They exploit other qualities specific to the sea, namely its currents and tides. In this asexual form of reproduction, impregnation is down to chance. But to increase the odds, the sperm and eggs are produced in enormous quantities. Quantity takes precedence over quality, to the point of clouding the sea. Months after the sperm whale has impregnated his harem, a female, aided by 2 midwives, gives birth close to the surface. The calf is already large, measuring around 4 meters. Its umbilical cord and that of its mother will take 2 days to detach themselves. Under careful supervision, the calf first learns to maintain its balance in the water. For 2 years, it will remain under the care and protection of the females, led by the matriarch. Throughout this period, it will stay tucked away beneath its mother, frequently attaching itself to one of her teats. Each day, it drinks 20 liters of condensed milk, with an equal amount being dispersed into the sea. This act of suckling lies at the origin of all the signs of affection and tenderness which are specific to mammals. When the pod dives to hunt in the depths, certain females remain on the surface with the youngest whales. At the extreme tip of South Africa, not far from the Cape, some other sea creatures have formed their own harem. But unlike the sperm whale, the sea lion is under constant pressure. The harem master has no choice but to ceaselessly patrol around his females to ward off other male suitors. All the time and energy he expends in this way prevents him from hunting and feeding. This polygamist shows great tenderness and frolics affectionately with the compliant females one after another. But he can only sustain this level of performance for 2 weeks. Flirting, controlling, copulating and ensuring the transmission of his genes with 20 females without having time to feed amounts to some performance. What's more, 2 weeks of sex but then no more in 18 years of life must be very frustrating. Why only 2 weeks? Because of all the adult and single males who live about 100 meters from the harem. They also have hormones which arouse them and cause them to pile pressure on the dominant male. As soon as they reach sexual maturity at the age of about 8, they relentlessly challenge the alpha male one after the other. He has no choice but to face up to them. But the young pretender refrains from engaging in violent combat in order to avoid injury. He only tests his resistance, and in a few days, he may take his place. Between confrontations, the dominant male continues his race against the clock. It's 99% cuddles, 1% sex. This type of polygamy has its drawbacks. The male will never know which ones he has actually impregnated, for as soon as they have mated, the females disappear to hunt amid the limitless expanse of the big blue. So this male polygamist experiences neither responsibility nor the joys of fatherhood. Sex is linked to possession and is therefore a source of violence. One example of this is the drama involving that king of camouflage, the octopus. The ritual starts serenely enough, as the male octopus woos the female by displaying his sexual organ to her, the hectocotylus, a sort of specialized arm located at the end of his third tentacle. He begins by caressing the female's intimate part. The female then draws her suitor to her, guiding him into her den. Their conjugal parade is the height of delicacy, involving fondling and the application of light pressure with their suction cups, accompanied by colorful effects. This couple clearly has a need for intimacy. But their liaison will be brief, as a young male also has designs upon the female. Her partner emerges from her den. The two rivals confront each other. The young interloper is driven back with tentacle blows, but continues to threaten. The lover returns to his conquest, but he is rattled by the presence of the intruder. His caresses are replaced by brute force. No longer content merely to enter her, he wraps his cape around her, making breathing difficult. Under pressure, he spills his sperm into the water. The rival seizes his chance to approach, and the two males square up again. Like pawns on a chessboard, each advances from rock to rock, ready for a fight. Suddenly, the first octopus sees red and launches himself at the usurper. The latter defends himself by ejecting a cloud of ink. The attacker wraps his enemy in his webbing, smothers him, and lacerates him with his beak. The eyes of the vanquished octopus can be seen inside the big male, as he struggles briefly before succumbing. He will gradually be swallowed. Then, as if nothing had happened, the octopus blends back in with the reef. 3 months later, the female octopus has shut herself away in her lair to lay her eggs. She not only has to protect them from repeated attacks by fish, but also ventilate them by means of attentive caresses. After 4 to 6 weeks, the eggs hatch and the larvae are dispersed. Soon after this unique laying method, the devoted mother will perish from exhaustion and malnutrition. The 500,000 octopus hatchlings create a cloud of their own in the depths of the sea. We resume our investigations in Micronesia, at the bottom of Palau Lagoon and at the edges of the Yap coral reefs, in search of a spectacular use of the qualities of water for seduction purposes. At first glance, manta rays don't appear to show any real interest in one another. But this changes once the female releases pheromones and then disperses them by means of her ballet. The sea spreads the odors until the males become aware of them. The female does not surrender meekly to the first comer. Larger than the male and a faster swimmer, she leaves him trailing in her wake until he is joined by some rival suitors. Through her marathon dance, she gets the males to compete and will accept the strongest. Already numbering 12, the rivals will redouble their efforts to take first place behind the female. The process of seduction amounts to a fully fledged contest. The female bamboozles the rival suitors with sudden turns, eliminates any slow coaches with bursts of speed, and leaves the less adroit floundering with her acrobatics. Only the strongest will be permitted to transmit his genes through her. The chosen male then lands on her back and penetrates her with one of his claspers, a sort of hardened channel through which sperm is released. 12 months later, the female will give birth to 1 or 2 pups. No one has ever previously filmed the mating ritual and the sexual act of these sea serpents. It is an undulating dance which rapidly becomes a ballet with 3 or 4 performers. The most forceful male nibbles at the female before latching onto her and penetrating her. Around the sunken wrecks on the bed of the Pacific Ocean, we located a creature whose potential for violence is so great that if the males had to compete for a female, the only outcome would be a bloodbath. For due to their fearsome weaponry of a venomous double stinger which can cause paralysis, the dalliances of stingrays are fraught with deadly danger. In her ovulation period, this female is emitting a long trail of pheromones. Immediately, a male follows her, and she is soon being trailed by all the adult males from the reef. The males are recognizable by their 2 sexual organs, or claspers, pelvic fins which extend in 2 fleshy sections, rolled up a bit like pancakes. The claspers harden with age and serve as channels via which the male tries to penetrate the female. Larger than the males, the female leads her pursuers to a confined space at the bottom of a valley. Her suitors position themselves over her, one above another. They brush against each other, and the tension mounts. The arousal of one causes edginess in another. Are they going to fight and destroy each other? The venom which each carries at the tip of its tail serves as a deterrent. Amid such promiscuity in a confined space such as this, the slightest incident could amount to mass suicide. Her genital organ open in invitation, the female slips into an even narrower canyon. The most able male seizes one of her wings, gripping it strongly with the only means available to him, his mouth. Turning around, he penetrates her with one of his claspers for several long minutes. It's the female that decides upon the moment of separation. Another male takes over as the current carries them, bumping against the sharp reefs. The male has difficulty holding onto the female, such is her size. In this way, in the intimacy of the deep canyons, the female gathers the sperm of the males. Through her skill at guiding the males, the female manages to prevent carnage by accepting them in turn, thereby ensuring she is impregnated by the strongest sperm. So many partners, just to lay a few eggs. We now return to the shark-infested seas around the Galapagos Islands to try to penetrate the mystery regarding the sexuality of these creatures. Every morning, hammerhead sharks rise in their thousands from the depths towards the reefs. come to join the cleaner wrasses and damselfish, which obligingly cleanse their gills and pectoral fins of parasites and tend to the shark's mysterious bites. For a while, the reef is transformed into a gigantic clinic. But there's something different about this particular shoal of sharks. It's made up exclusively of females. Not a single male joins them. So, are these sharks practicing sex segregation? Let's explore this on the male side, with these ragged-toothed sharks, for example. The only time they come together in shoals is each June in the caves off the South African coast. Lurking in the shadows, the male ragged-toothed sharks, with their distinctive pelvic fins, gather in small groups and wait for the females to pass. They wait like this for a whole month. On full moons in the southern autumn, in the depths of the caves, females in their ovulation period come and join the males for a hunting session and a shared feast. For this informal bout of teamwork, one blocks the fish off while the other swallows it head first. During the course of this feast, the males and females brush against each other, becoming aroused and attracted to each other. Some of the females even carry scars from injuries caused by males during copulation. This will be the female's last meal, as once impregnated, she will cease to feed for the period of her pregnancy. 9 months later, sensing she is about to give birth, she feels the need to scratch her belly. Even inside the ragged-toothed shark, extreme violence reigns. The fetuses have already developed their teeth and the ability to swim. The strongest are feeding on unhatched eggs. And when they grow, they will devour each other until only one remains. But to compensate for this unique brand of cannibalism, evolution has equipped the female with 2 uteruses. Close to Darwin's Arch, at the northernmost tip of the Galapagos, lies the kingdom of the white tip. We were able to film the violence of the sexual encounter between male and female sharks. The sea transmits the odors left behind by the ovulating female. There are already a dozen or so males on her trail. The most able attempt to grip her fins, but the female doesn't make their task easy. As with all shark species, she is larger and faster than the males. One of her suitors has managed to lock onto her and pulls her down towards the seabed. Lacking any limbs with which to hold her during copulation, he has no solution other than to bite her gills and fins. To limit the damage, evolution has led the females to develop considerably thicker skin than the males. The sexual union over, the partners go their separate ways. But the female's torment is far from over, as other males begin hounding her in turn. Just as with the rays, the male introduces one of his two pelvic claspers into the female's cloaca. In a bid to maintain what is an exhausting acrobatic position, he pins her against the sand and the sharp coral. With every spasm, the male pumps salt water into the channels visible along his belly, then simultaneously propels into the female's cloaca a mixture of sperm, water, and serotonin, a hormone that aids impregnation. The shark's clasper is an amazingly complex appendage. Inside the female, it opens up like a flower, exposing hooks and spurs that dig in and keep it in the female's cloaca during copulation. Copulation lasts around 20 minutes for each male. No sooner has she been released than other males take over the assault, dragging the female to the bottom of a crevice and the murky waters of the thermocline at a depth of 150 feet. Many of them try to grip her, but the vast majority fail. Today, a surprising and previously unobserved event is occurring. The female is being penetrated by two males at the same time. Already devoid of sensuality and compliance, this sexual union becomes frenetic. Only the strongest sperm will prevail. The injured female goes to recuperate among her companions, but she has one unique advantage on her side. She can stockpile spermatozoa for 14 months and can therefore wait for her wounds to heal before fertilizing them. But those which suffer the most serious injuries will die an agonizing death. Violence has its very own hierarchy. At sea, it's the climate which is top dog and triggers the most devastating violence. The El Niño phenomenon, for example, has a direct impact upon sharks. One of the characteristics of El Niño is an absence of wind in the center of the Pacific, which leads to a rise in sea temperature throughout that ocean, and huge climatic disturbance, such as drought in Indonesia, and torrential rain and storms in Peru and California. And the effects of El Niño are also felt beneath the sea, as the overly warm water prevents the shoals of female sharks from rising up to the reefs, so that their wounds, inflicted by males during mating, can be cleaned. For a large number of them, therefore, El Niño heralds death before they can even give birth. A year after El Niño is over, the water returns to its normal temperature, and the female hammerheads can at last return to the reefs. But in what a state! The survivors have the air of lepers. This year, it's not so much a trip to the clinic, but a dash to the emergency department. For those who are pregnant, the situation is even more critical, as they are weakened by not having fed for a year, the length of their gestation period. Some are showing signs of prenatal contractions and take refuge in the shallows to give birth. Scarcely has the pouch broken than the pup starts to swim, its head still stuck inside its mother's belly. From this moment on, they are alone in life, as the mother is no longer concerned with them. The pups are born ready to operate as predators, miniature versions of the adults, and just as alert and agile. The passes between the Polynesian islands are renowned for their pods of dolphins. They have no need of a full moon, warm water, or any particular season to mate. Dolphins' hormones are active regularly, and the game of seduction is permanent. Males and females attract attention and express their arousal by performing turns and acrobatics. Their sexuality can be summed up in one word: rampant, but it is orderly nonetheless. The mature female dolphin has to resist her initial sexual arousal by first aiding the other females in their act of procreation. Incest is a particular taboo amongst dolphins. Each time they communicate, they reveal their identity and family origin, thereby avoiding incest and the resulting bad genes. Today, the clan is allowing this female to show her receptiveness to the male's advances by languidly rubbing her belly against the sand. Her sensuality is heightened by her ovulation. This behavior triggers a full-blown love ritual. The preliminaries last for days, accompanied by sensual caresses that ratchet up the desire. The partner's snouts explore the entire length of her body, from the mouth to the genital area. When she is ready, the female signals this by exposing her belly. As for the male, his sexual organ is continually erect, concealed in his genital slit. It only emerges at these special moments. And what a special moment. The males mate with one female, then another again. Each time, their coupling only lasts a few seconds. Today, however, this male has ejaculated early. Is it down to his inexperience, or has the presence of a shark made him nervous? In the autumn, the shallow bays of South Africa are visited by a species of whale with an extremely strict reproductive rhythm. Male and female right whales, each on their own side, have spent 9 months feeding off the coasts of the Antarctic. Now they have come here to give birth or to mate. The males initiate the mating game with some acrobatics. The partners only have a 3-month period in which to reproduce. One of them joins a female and caresses her with his snout and fins. The male turns onto his back and slips beneath her. The density of the water and the lack of stability make penetration difficult, but the males have developed a telescopic penis which can be inserted in the female's vagina despite the water's eddies. They copulate repeatedly and take their time, 2 to 3 hours in all. The male remains stable below, while the female provides the movement. A large male has picked up vibrations emitted by the couple and amplified by the sea. His charge stops the mating. When it comes to sex, the normally peaceful right whale exhibits extraordinary energy, delivering blows with his tail to the rival's genital area in order to crush the huge testicles located inside his body. And if these tail blows don't do the trick, the rivals strike each other with their fins and snouts. Equipped with sharp bristles formed by parasitic barnacles, their snouts make formidable razor-like weapons. Their demonstrations of strength, adroit dodges and lightning riposts reflect their burning desire. During this time, The female, who has remained placidly alongside the fighting males, has been approached by a young albino who slips beneath her. She acquiesces, as she regards it as an additional opportunity to procreate, while he sees it as a chance to get ahead of his rivals. The two partners embrace, stroking each other and showing great tenderness with their fins. The male produces a phenomenal quantity of sperm in order to wash her previous partner's sperm from her belly. When the female has had enough, she turns on her back to put an end to their union. The male puts away his penis for the next 9 months. His role is over. He will play no part in the bringing up of their young. The female then points her vulva and tail towards the sky, thus indicating her unavailability to the males. The party over, she recovers by basking in the sun. One year later, the female returns to the area to give birth, where she can be observed at length frolicking with her calf on her back. Segregation of males and females, sexual promiscuity, multiple partners, vast clouds of sperm, harems, and polygamy. The sea has created an incredible range of reproductive techniques which make full use of its liquid properties. All of this vital energy has just one purpose: adaptation, in order to perpetuate the species.